In this lesson, we're going to talk about one of my favorite features in Excel, the Excel table. Now, what exactly is a table? Well, in the context of working with data, a table is just a group of columns and rows that have some common connection between them, right? And in that sense, we've been working with tables in Excel for a long time, simply by building worksheets. But a table can be and really is so much more. In this lesson, we're going to explore all the features of the Excel table and see why it is such a great tool. So to get started, make sure you're on the Table tab of your exercise file. We're going to go ahead and take this pretty boring looking table and create an Excel table. So what I want to do is click anywhere in this table, and then I'm going to go to my Tables tab. And to create this table, I'm going to click on one of these table styles. That's really all there is to it. And I can click this one right here, or I can click my drop down and select on different styles. We've got medium styles that have a little bit more bold formatting, and then we have darker styles that are really dramatic contrasts. Typically you want to pick the style that's going to work for whatever you're going to use. Sometimes the darker styles work better in a presentation, whereas the lighter styles will work better in a printout. We'll go ahead and pick something that's not too out of the wall there. We've got a different color for the header row, and then we've got every other row shaded, and that's actually called banding. So that comes to our first feature of tables, this very superior formatting. Again, we've got a different format for the first row than we do for any other row, and we've got the banding. And you'll see in my table options, these are just settings I can put on my table. I can take it off the header row. I can display banded rows, or I can have them just be the same. I could also have the first column be different, have that stand out, and I can have banded columns if I want to display the data that way. Could also have the last column stand out, and that would be good if you had a grand total or something like that. And we'll talk about the total row too. So let's click on that total row, and this is really interesting because here now I've got a total row, and what you can do is in each different column you can click this drop down and choose from one of Excel's aggregations. It comes up with the most standard ones. Maybe I want the max number of bedrooms. What's the max number of bedrooms? 5. Maybe I want to show the minimum, or maybe I want to show the average number of bedrooms for this particular data. Or if you have a case where it doesn't make sense to have a total, you can leave it blank. Maybe I want the average price here, but it doesn't really make sense to have an average number of bedrooms. Okay, so the other neat thing about tables is if I'm entering data, the old way I'd have to insert a row and readjust my formulas and all that. Well, here, if I'm on the last row, if I just tab across to the very last entry and I hit tab again, Excel automatically knows I'm in a table. It moved my total row down. And as I start typing in another address, I have number of bedrooms 3, number of bathrooms 3, and watch my average price there as I type that in. It changes automatically. And my count changed. So tables are a really effective way to keep the data going. I can keep tabbing and it'll automatically adjust. Now another thing that's neat about the formatting of a table is that it automatically gets the autofill handles. Now many of us are familiar with these from just going to the data menu and doing filter, but the difference is these apply to the table. So if I want to see the bedrooms, I just have 3 bedrooms, I can click that. If I want to see 2 bedrooms as well, I can enable that filter. And the reason I say it applies to the table is I can have more than one table in my worksheet. So if I turn this into a table, now I have another set of drop-down lists there. The reason this is significant is because when you use the filter on the data menu, you can only have one per worksheet. But when you use tables, you can have a filter on every single table that you're working with. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that table over there. In a previous lesson, we talked about freeze panes, and that's how you can automatically lock down the top row or column in a range so that it doesn't move off the page when you're scrolling. Now, we haven't done any freeze panes here with this data we're working with this table, but if we're going to scroll down a little bit and see some more information, watch what happens as we scroll down. Did you see that? Look at the column headings, A through G. As I start scrolling my worksheet down, the headings for the table will take over the actual column headings in the Excel workbook. Now that will happen as long as there's an active cell in our table. So while we've got an active cell in this table, the column headings will represent the headings for that table. If I click somewhere else, they'll go back to their letters because Excel assumes I'm not really working with the table right now. But if I come back, the headings appear. So we always know what column we're working with. The next feature I'm going to talk about in the table is what's called a smart formula. Now let's see how the table handles a formula. We're going to go ahead and add a column here, and we're going to just call it price per bedrooms. Now watch what happens. Because we decided to add this right next to the table, Excel is going to assume we want to include this as part of our table. What we've done is we've added this column in, and now we want to actually make a formula, price per bedrooms. So that's basically going to be the price divided by the number of bedrooms. Now we all know how to do this from formulas. We just do a formula, and that's going to be equals D2 divided by C2. Okay? So let me just go ahead and type equals, and I'll click on D2 and watch what happens. It doesn't put D2 in. It puts this kind of strange notation, but if you look at it, it really makes sense. At price. It's actually referencing the column header instead of a cell address. And you're going to see this is going to make your formulas much more readable in a table. We're going to divide that by the number of bedrooms, which would be B2. But our smart formula is put in at bedrooms, so it automatically knows the price. Now all we have to do is hit return and copy that formula down, right? Okay, I'll hit return. And Excel, because we're in a table, knows we want that formula replicated all the way down to the bottom of the table. Even so far as to go to our blank row and see that we have price divided by bedrooms. Well, there's no value there, so it's going to give me an error. And I'll go ahead and delete this row. So that's huge because many times we've built tables the old traditional way, and we might change a formula, and then we have to remember to copy that formula all the way down. We might have to copy it down 500 rows or 1,000, and we're never sure how many to go. With a table, Excel automatically copies it down to the whole table. If I wanted to alter that formula and say multiply by 2, it really doesn't make a lot of sense formula-wise, but I'll hit return. And Excel automatically updates that formula in the entire table all the way down. Again, this is the smart formula feature of tables, and it's really, really powerful. One other interesting little thing to note about that is because each column header is now kind of a way that formulas will reference that row. Watch what happens when I try to add a column that already exists. So I'm going to go over here and try to add another column. I'm going to call it price. And you notice in column D is also called price. So as I hit return, watch what happens. Turns into price 2. Within a table, I can't ever have more than one of the same column heading. And that's because Excel definitely wants to use the smart formulas. Then the last thing I'm going to show you is how to name the table. And this will be important because if we want to do calculations or formulas later or build a pivot table off of this, we want to be able to refer to this table by a logical name. So all I have to do is when I'm clicked anywhere in my table, on my Tables tab, go all the way to the end to the Rename command, click that, and then I just type a name over here in the name box, and I'll just call it TBL Real Estate. And hit return. And now, anytime I want to make something that requires a range name, I can use table real estate because it's a table name. And the real benefit is, as a table expands or contracts, that range name, that table name will automatically grow or shrink with the table. So we'll always have the right reference. As you can see, tables as a concept have been around for a long time, and they help us organize our information into logical structures. But Excel's taken the table concept and improved upon it tremendously by adding some very useful functionality to tables. From persistent formatting to the locked headers and formulas that automatically populate, tables are a helpful addition to Excel's set of tools.